Hey guys, it's Akshay and I recently upgraded from the AirPods Pro 1st Gen to the AirPods Pro 2nd Gen, and honestly I wasn't expecting there to be much of a difference between them because come on, look at these things, they look almost identical. When I tried them on, I was practically in shock. These feel like a whole new world. In summary, there are 5 new features which are all great, but there's one which is an absolute slam dunk. So if you're thinking about buying the Gen 2 Pros, then this brutally honest video is for you, where I won't tell you just tech specs and features, but I'll tell you what they actually mean for you in everyday use. Let's get into it. So right off the bat, here's an easy to understand summary of everything you get when you upgrade to the AirPods Pro Gen 2. Essentially 5 things. First is the sound, which includes improved audio drivers, improved noise cancellation, and a better microphone. Second is the case, which has a speaker to help you with Find My AirPods, and a lanyard loop to clip onto your belt or your bag, and new ear tip sizes for extra small ears. Third, there's new smart and AI features like adaptive audio and conversation awareness. Fourth, there's new touch controls on the AirPods themselves for volume. And fifth, larger battery and better charging options. By the way, it gives you 33% longer battery life, which basically means 6 hours on a charge with noise cancellation on and 30 hours between the pods and the case combined. And on charging, you now get a USB-C port and the ability to charge with MagSafe and other Qi compatible chargers, and you can also use your Apple Watch charger. So that's what you get when you pay the $250, £230, €279 or 25,000 rupees for the AirPods Pro Gen 2. The Gen 1s, which Apple doesn't officially sell anymore, can still easily be bought with the same 1-year Apple warranty if you buy them on third-party websites like Amazon, where you can save 50 to 70 quid or 7 to 10,000 rupees. But by the way, you can also buy the non-Pro 3rd Gen AirPods for about 180 pounds, euros or 21,000 rupees, which does save you like 15-20% on paper. But in my opinion, they're totally not worth it, except if you hate wearing earphones with silicone tip and you like the open feeling of the non-Pro AirPods. Only if that's the case, you should go for them. Otherwise, it significantly compromises the audio quality. I wouldn't recommend it. So if I recommend the Pros, do I recommend the Gen 2 or the Gen 1s? Are the Gen 2s worth the extra cash? I think they totally are. The difference is enormous and it's more than worth it. And leave me a comment below if you want me to do a detailed comparison. So why am I so shocked by the AirPods Pro Gen 2 and why am I recommending that you spend so much more money to buy them? The features seem reasonably incremental, right? I mean, what new product doesn't have slightly better battery and sound slightly better? Well, for me, the 5 features that I talked about, there's one that's an absolute slam dunk shocker that'll instantly convince you to buy these or upgrade to these, and the other 4 are also very good and useful, but that one feature, oh my god, after you figure that one out, it's going to be really hard to go back to any other pair of AirPods. So which of the 5 is it? Let's figure it out by going one by one. Let's first start with the case, which Apple definitely made a big deal of in their launch event. With the Gen 2s, you get a few handy additions to the case, including a speaker at the bottom and a lanyard loop on the side. If you're wondering why headphones also need a speaker on the case, overcompensate much? It's not for your audio, it's to improve a feature that was frustratingly bad on the AirPods Pro Gen 1, the Find My AirPods app that's supposed to help you locate them in case you lose it. Every time I would lose it, I would try and play the chime and have my phone tell me which way to go, but the chip just wasn't good enough to do any proper location tracking, and the chime was actually being played through the AirPods themselves inside the case. So no wonder no one can hear it. I would eventually find the AirPods using the old school way, by going around my house on a rampage, looking under cushions and clothes and desks and lamps, and Apple, you owe me many hours of house cleaning. But with the new AirPods Gen 2, Apple has finally solved this problem. The chip now does a great job of directing you to where they actually are, and the addition of a speaker on the case actually helps you hear the chime. It works great, and if you add the fact that you can put a lanyard loop to clip the case onto your bag or jeans or whatever, you can finally stop worrying about losing the AirPods. Oh, one more thing, you can now get your Memoji printed on the AirPods case, if that's what you're into. Now all this is great, but that's not the big slam dunk feature which will convince you beyond doubt to upgrade. Let's keep going. Second, there's the new smart features like active transparency mode and conversational awareness. Active transparency mode is basically a way to make transparency mode not ruin your eardrums and your sanity. As you know, in transparency mode, the AirPods allow outside sounds into your ears as if you weren't wearing them by using the mic. But this can sometimes let in really loud sounds like the drill or a leaf blower that can be really irritating and even harmful when magnified by the AirPods. So adaptive transparency helps reduce those specific sounds to sort of smooth out the sounds you hear from the outside. And it works pretty well. So the next time you can't concentrate at work because a coworker is speaking really loudly next to you on a Teams or Zoom call, you know what to... Wait, am I that person at office? Is this feature a solution to me? Okay, there's also conversational awareness as a feature, where if you start speaking, the AirPods will lower their volume and switch to transparency mode to allow for the conversation to continue. And then when you're done, it brings the volume back up to the original setting. Well, I've tried this in a few different places and it works pretty well. If there was one thing they could further improve, is a way to bring the sound back faster. I think it waits for a set time duration of like 5 seconds before it brings it back, which is a bit frustrating if you're impatient like me. I pulled out my phone at least a few times to check if there was something wrong and try and play the music manually. It's a very useful feature though, especially when you're in the office and coworkers come across and talk to you from time to time for a quick question, or you're at home with your family who pop their head in from time to time to ask you things like what do you want for dinner. These features are pretty amazing, and especially when you add it to the case improvements, but these are still not that slam dunk feature, the one that alone makes the case for these earphones. Now, there are also some improved controls on the AirPods, which are actually just Apple catching up with the rest of the industry and offering volume controls by sliding your finger up and down the stem of the earbud. But even though it's Apple catching up, as an upgrade, it's a pretty good feature. It's generally useful in the gym or when you're out for a run or on the go. I love not having to reach for my phone or my watch to change the volume. But the real slam dunk feature which absolutely blew my mind was number 4, the H2 chip, which enables a completely different sound experience. The AirPods Pro Gen 2 combine the H2 chip with improved audio drivers and an improved microphone. And what this does is allow for amazing noise cancellation. Apple says this is up to 2x more, and there's no real way to check if it's exactly twice as good. But the first time I put them on, I was walking across a bridge with cars honking and zooming past me, and suddenly everything went totally quiet. To me, it definitely felt 2 times more. And remember, the Gen 1 AirPods Pro were already pretty good at noise cancellation given their size, but you could still hear some outside sounds, especially at low frequency, sounds like cars and engine noises on the airplane, or the low rumbles and thuds in a gym. But the Gen 2s have been transformational. Most reviewers agree that this is the best noise cancellation you can get for earbuds this size, apart from the Bose Quiet Comfort 2, but those won't have any of the other features that work so seamlessly with the iPhone. If you ask me, this feature alone is worth paying the extra money. By the way, that's not all the H2 chip has improved. It's also improved the sound quality, better sound separation, the feeling of a wider sound stage, and a really clear marked improvement in the separation of the highs, the mids and the bass, and a really full bass compared to the Gen 1s. To help you understand how this is going to feel when you're listening to them, the best way I can describe it is that the thuds of the bass on an electronic track will sound richer and more satisfyingly thumpy. And if you like heavy vocal tracks, they'll sound much crisper. You'll be able to hear the individual instruments more clearly and more separately. Now, does this mean that the Gen 1 Pros are bad or a bad purchase? Not at all. I bet that unless you have both of them in your hands and you can compare, you might not even be able to tell the difference in sound quality. But if you're even slightly aware or slightly picky about your sound quality, not like an audiophile or anything, just a normal person who cares about the drop in the electronic track or the bass in the hip hop track, I think you'll be able to hear the difference. And there's still more sound improvements. The last one is in the microphone, which to an on-the-go worker like me who takes a ton of work calls, VCs and personal calls on their AirPods is a very important factor. In my tests, people told me that using the 2nd gen AirPods Pro, they could hardly hear any background noise where I was even if I was out on the street and my voice came out louder, clearer and crisper. The Gen 1 Pros worked fine if you took calls in a quieter environment like your study or your car, but taking calls on the road or at an airport or even in the office if you work in an open floor plan space with lots of chatter in the background wasn't that great. I mostly had to switch to wired headphones or run around like an idiot with my laptop in my hand looking for a quieter spot. But with these, I can now take calls in most environments and people can actually hear me. Anyone who takes calls on the go, I'd say this is another huge improvement to justify the extra cost. And finally, last but not the least, there's also pretty decent improvements to charging. The AirPods now work with MagSafe or Qi 2 chargers, which means they will snap into place magnetically and charge faster. And they even work on the Apple Watch charger, which is a pretty useful upgrade if you have a nightstand where you can charge multiple devices like I do, and you can alternate between charging your Apple Watch Ultra and your AirPods one night each. The battery has 33% more juice and the charging is upgraded to USB-C, so you can finally start to recycle those damn lightning cables and you can finally share chargers with Android users like the tech gods intended us to. So, should you buy or upgrade to the AirPods Pro Gen 2? For me, the answer is a clear yes. If you can afford to put in the extra $50 to $70 or pounds or euros or 5 to 7,000 rupees, you should. If you think that's a lot to spend at once, now's the time to take the EMI plan and spread the cost out. But trust me, for someone who uses these a lot, it's totally worth it. The sound is phenomenally better. The noise cancellation makes the difference between night and day to your everyday life. And the small but useful improvements like the better microphone for calls, the adaptive transparency and conversation awareness modes, the extra battery life, charging options, the lower likelihood of you actually losing the damn thing and using volume controls on the go adds up to more than justify the upgrade. Now, if you're choosing between the full range of different Apple AirPods, I'd always recommend going for a Pro. If you insist on evaluating the other AirPods anyway, then check out my attempt to make that comparison funny right here.